Hey y'all, today we're making pepperoni pizza sourdough bread. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is your starter. I take mine out the night before, and then that way it's ready for me the next morning, okay? And mine, you can see it's more than doubled. It's super bubbly. My starter is very well established. I don't do the float test anymore, but you'll see when I add it in here that it does float, okay? So what you're going to need is your scale in a big bowl. So put your bowl on your scale, zero it out, and then we're going to add in 200 grams of our sourdough starter, okay? And if y'all need to know how to make sourdough starter, I have a video on that. I also have a video on plain bread, and I have some discard recipes. So I have a whole sourdough playlist. I'll link that for y'all down below, and that way you'll have it if you need it. And yeah, so we're making pepperoni pizza bread. And look, I'm putting my hand all in this starter. Don't worry about it. I'm putting my hand elbow deep in this dough in a minute too. My hands are clean, I promise. So as you can see, my sourdough starter is very thick. I like to mix mine thick. It works better for me. But look, if y'all have any questions, you're not sure about something sourdough related, drop me a question down in the comment section, because I'm putting together sort of a Q&A on sourdough. It's going to be all about sourdough, starter, bacon, all that kind of stuff. So if you have any questions, just drop them down there and I'll add them to the list. So when I make that video, we'll get everything answered, okay? So now I'm adding, make sure you zero out your scale after you add your starter, and then add 700 grams of slightly warm water, okay? Mine's cold, straight out of the refrigerator filter, so I pop it in the microwave for about a minute with that big amount of water, just to kind of knock the chill off of it. And as you can see my starter's floating there. So take it off your scale, because you don't want to mess the calibration of your scale up. And you're going to mix that until it just looks really bubbly and milky, okay? If you have a little bit of starter chunks still in there, don't worry about it. You probably will. It's fine. You're going to put your bowl back on your scale, and then we're going to add 1,000 grams. Make sure you zero it out. Add 1,000 grams of bread flour, okay? Mine, it's unbleached bread flour. I have baked with all-purpose flour, but I find that bread flour works better for me, because as you go, you learn so many different things about baking, and especially with sourdough. So I'm using bread flour, unbleached bread flour, and then 1,000 grams of flour, and then you're going to add in 20 grams of salt, okay? And you can use mine. I love King Arthur bread flour, y'all, and I get it when I can find it. I can't find it sometimes. I don't know if everybody's making sourdough, what's going on, but this is the great value, and it works just fine for me, okay? So use whatever you have, but bread flour is for sure, better if you can get it. So then I've taken my little Danish dough whisk here, and I'm just going to carefully mix this. This is the biggest glass bowl that I own. I need to get some bigger bowls. The other bowls I have that are bigger are plastic, and y'all, I broke a plastic bowl right down the middle trying to make sourdough in it, because the dough is so thick. So anyway, I mix it up real good with my dough whisk, and then I get in there with my hand. And so you can see as I turn it up, that flour under the bottom. So the flour likes to hide up under there. And because my bowl was not super big and I couldn't really get under it good enough, I like to go in there with my hand. And that way I can feel any chunks too, like if it's still like a big chunk of flour, that didn't get mixed in. So anyway, make sure your hands are super clean, your fingernails are clean before you start digging in your bread. Please, for the love of all things, please make sure your hands are clean. So once I get my dough mixed up, I take this little scraper, and it's a little plastic scraper or silicone scraper, and I go around my bowl and try to get the majority of the stuff off the sides. And you're not going to be able to get it all. And, it's fine if you don't. I just, it dries like cement, y'all. Sourdough does. Well, flour and water. I mean, what do you make paper mache out of, right? So it dries like cement. But if you soak your bowl in hot water, it'll come right out. It'll be fine. So I'm going to put mine on something like a folded towel or something, or a little hot pad. It's not a heated pad, but you can see what's under there. Cover it with a plastic something. I'm using the food grade that look like shower caps. And then I'm covering mine with a towel. My house is freezing cold all the time, like 66 degrees. So I always sit mine on something and then cover it with a towel on top of the plastic. But the plastic will help keep the moisture in so your dough doesn't dry out. And you can see how shaggy and kind of just not put together that dough is. Okay, we let that sit for an hour. After we mixed it, we let it sit for an hour, and then we're going to do these stretch and folds. Wet your hands, and you need to go around your bowl about 4 times. Now, I just get sidetracked, and I ended up doing it way more than 4, but at least 4 times, like stretch it, fold it, turn your bowl. Stretch it, fold it, turn your bowl till you've done it, north, south, east, and west. Then we're going to cover it back up and let it sit for about 30 minutes, okay? Then we're going to come back, and we're making pepperoni pizza sourdough bread, right? So what I'm going to do is start adding in my stuff. Now, I'm not adding any sauce into mine. Some people do, but I just was too afraid that it would get too wet and my dough wouldn't want to stick, like when I was folding it and stuff. So what we did, or what we do, because I have baked this about 1 billion times, because the loaf, if my son gets a hold of it, the loaf doesn't last the day. Seriously, y'all, it's so good. So anyway, I put down some pepperonis. I just cut them into quarters, and then I put down some mozzarella cheese. Just sprinkle it in there, as much or as little as you want. I don't normally put mine in at this step. I usually wait till the end and fold it in. So this was actually the first time I folded it in like this. And you try different things, but it works well either way. Okay. So anyway, every time I fold it, I add more pepperoni and cheese. You could also add like some Italian seasoning or something like that if you wanted to. Some garlic powder, whatever you want to add. But I'm telling you, it's really good just like this to us. Now, that's just my opinion. Okay, once I folded it all 4 times, we're going to put the little shower cap back on it. I'm going to put the towel back on it. We're going to let it sit another 30 minutes, okay? And if I didn't tell y'all, this is a double batch. So this is going to make 2 loaves of bread. So if you're wanting to only make 1 loaf of bread, just half the ingredients that I told you in the beginning. And I'll also make note of that down in the description box when I write out the recipe for y'all. So you can see how much thicker or more held together that dough gets every time we do this. So you're going to do your stretch and folds, cover it back up, and we're going to let it sit for another 30 minutes. You're going to do this 4 times, okay? That's all you got to do, 4 times, okay? So we've let it sit 30 minutes. We're pulling it back out, and we're going to stretch and fold it for the last time. And you can see, like, it came all the way out of the bowl that time. Like, it's getting itself together now. And the little bumps that you're seeing is the cheese under the surface of the dough. It's not like dry bits or anything. It's the cheese. So this is the last time. We're going to cover it, and we're going to let this bulk ferment on the counter. And I let mine sit out for probably about 12 hours. Okay, I got up in the morning and started, and then this was at like 11 o'clock at night. But you see how jiggly it is, and you can see the bubbles around the edges of the bowl there, and then you can see the bubbles right there in the bowl. So that's how you're going to know that your dough's ready. You can also wet your finger, stick it into your dough, and if it springs back slowly, it's ready. If it doesn't spring back, it's not ready. Okay, so you can test it like that, okay? But if it's jiggly, it's doubled in size, and it's got the good bubbles in it, it's ready. So what I'm doing now is I've got my little silicone mat that y'all know I love. It's in my Amazon store if y'all need one. I love this thing, especially with them stinking tile countertops I have. They drive me crazy. But this thing is perfect. So what you're going to do now, flour your surface because it's pretty sticky still. And you're going to dump your bowl over, and you just, if you can, if you're patient enough, just let it come out on its own. That's another way that you kind of know that your dough is good to go, because it'll let go of the bowl by itself. Now, like I said, it was 11 o'clock at night, or 11:30. I had to go to work in the morning. So I was like, let me help it along a little bit. So right there at one edge, I just kind of broke it loose just a little bit. I didn't even go all the way around the bowl. And then I turned it back upside down, and you can see it kind of sliding there out of the bowl. And I just tilt my bowl this way and that way until the dough turns loose and plops out on my counter. Do you have to let it fall out on its own? No, but it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying, y'all. It's real satisfying to me. You know, it doesn't take much to make me happy. So anyway, see how clean it came out of the bowl? The only thing really left in the bowl was the dried bits around the top. So because we're making 2 loaves, I'm going to cut this in half. And it looks really uneven. I noticed when I went back, when I was editing the video, like the piece closest to the camera looks huge and the other one looks small. But it's just the way the camera is because they were the same size. So you're just going to take one piece and sit it over to the side. And then your first piece, you're going to, you know, make sure you got some flour down there because she will stick. You don't need a whole lot. Sometimes it just depends on how sticky your dough is, y'all. Just go with what it feels like. You're going to try to stretch this out into as much of a rectangle as you can. And I go along and pop any really big bubbles. So then you're going to fold one side over and then fold the other side over, okay? And then I had to put a little bit more flour because it was pretty sticky. And then you're just going to roll this up. You need to roll it sort of tight if you can, but be careful when you add stuff to your bread because if you roll it too tight, then all your stuff is going to come out. Does that make sense? So now I'm just kind of pushing and pulling this. If you know anything about sourdough, you just push your ball and then kind of tuck your fingers and pull it back towards you. And you do that until you kind of tighten up the top of your dough ball. But you don't want to do it so tight that it busts on the top, okay? And I was popping really big air bubbles, if y'all were wondering what I was doing right there. So because these have something in them, because the pepperoni tends to be a little greasy sometimes, I don't like to use my wooden banneton baskets because I don't want that to leak out in there and then my baskets end up like you can't clean it out and then they mold or something. So anytime I do an inclusion, and I've done like lemon blueberry, I've done jalapeno cheddar, y'all, they're so good. But anyway, I use a bowl with a towel in it. Just get a smooth towel, like a smooth kitchen towel, put it in your bowl, and then flour your towel good because otherwise your dough is going to stick to it. And then you want to flour the top of your dough ball, scoop it up, flip it over to where the floured side is in the bottom of the bowl. And that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to show you the second one. We do the same exact thing. So I've got these in 2 bowls, and since I had some pepperoni kind of peeking out, I'm just kind of carefully poking the pepperoni back down into the bread, because this is going to be, what you're looking at is going to be the bottom of your loaf, and I didn't want my pepperoni to burn to the bottom of the thing. You know what I mean? So flour the top of your dough, or the bottom of your dough, whatever you want to call it, the part you can see. Put a little flour on there so that your towel doesn't stick. And then you're just going to rub it in and then fold your little pieces of towel over your bread. And then I take a plastic little shower cap. I keep saying shower cap, but these are food grade bowl covers that I'm using. And you can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Temu. You can get them at Walmart, wherever. I just get a humongous bag from Temu and they're perfect. So I just put that right over the top. I'd let a little of the air out of there. And then we're going to put these in the refrigerator to finish fermenting. This is, like I said, about 11:30 or so at night. I'm going to put these in the refrigerator overnight, okay? So mine sit in the refrigerator usually anywhere between 8 to 12 hours. But you can leave them in there as much as 36 hours if you have something to do. So anyway, the next day, I got up early the next morning before work, and you're going to take it out of the, go ahead, you need to have your, okay, when you first get up, okay, when you get ready to bake, let me back up. You're going to turn your oven on 450 degrees with your Dutch oven inside, okay? Then when you're ready to bake, when it's ready, you're going to do that let it preheat for an hour, okay? When you're ready to put your bread in, you're going to take your bread out of the refrigerator. You're going to turn it out onto some parchment paper. Now, I have this silicone sling, and I love to use this for my sourdough bread. But again, because this has pepperoni inside, and I know it's going to be greasy if it leaks, I don't want to end up with a bunch of grease in the bottom of my Dutch oven and a whole bunch of smoke. You know what I'm saying? So anytime I have an inclusion like this, I put it on parchment paper. That way, it catches everything if anything leaks out of your bread. And then I'm just scoring my bread. I'm just putting like an X across the top. And I go down, I don't know, maybe a half inch or so. You just need a pretty good score. And the reason you score your bread, y'all, in case you're wondering, is because your bread is going to expand. And if you don't give it somewhere to puff up, it's just going to bust wherever it wants to. Okay. Now look, don't worry about my trick or treat. That's my old stained up thing. Once your bread is ready to go in, very carefully take your Dutch oven out. You're going to take your parchment paper and very carefully drop your bread down into your Dutch oven, okay? And we're going to, I'm just kind of getting that, so, kind of getting the wrinkles out or whatever. Then we're going to put the lid on this, and we're going to bake this 450 degrees Fahrenheit, see there, for about 25 minutes, okay? And again, everybody does different recipes. Everybody does different times, different oven temps. This is just what I'm using for this, okay? After 25 minutes, take it out. You don't have to take it out, but I do because I'm showing y'all. And you take the lid off. This is what it's going to look like. It's puffed up, but it's not browned yet. So we're going to put it back in the oven, turn it down to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and cook it for another 20 to 25 minutes until it's as brown as you want it, okay? If you're checking the temperature, it needs to be about 200, 210 degrees internally. I don't check my temperature anymore, but that's what it needs to be if you're checking your temperature. So I do 450 degrees covered for 25 minutes and then 400 degrees uncovered for another 25 minutes. But everybody's oven is different, so just watch it. And then carefully take it out of your Dutch oven, and I'm going to show y'all the bottom. And I'll tell y'all a little trick. See how my bottom is not burned? I put a pizza pan under my Dutch oven, like a big pizza pan, or you can do a cookie sheet or whatever. And that kind of helps the heat to not hit straight on your bread and kind of disperse. And look, I'm showing y'all the oil that came out from the pepperonis. So, but y'all, that's all there is to it. I cut it. There's a little side view for y'all, and look how soft. It just springs right on back. And you're going to have, different size holes, different amounts and distributions of pepperoni and cheese. But I'm telling y'all, if you like sourdough bread, you need to make this pepperoni pizza bread. It is so dang good. Okay, if y'all have any questions, drop them in the comments. That is all I've got for y'all today, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.